How's it going, everyone? It's Johnny Beard here with another Tier List Thursdays, and if you haven't heard, the PlayStation 1 is turning 30 years old in this next week or so, in Japan anyway, and for me that counts. I hate it when people say, oh, it was not in the US or in Europe. No, the PS1 is 30 years old in this next week or so, and that's absolutely crazy. It's arguably my favourite console. I absolutely have so many memories with this console. I wanted to do something slightly different today because I want to celebrate the PS1 turning 30 years old, but I was like, there's just too many games. How can I cover them all? So I thought what I'll do is I'm going to use my trusted friend here. We're going to use our lovely friend called the Wheel of Names. You may have heard of him. Look at this bad boy here. So we've got around 60 different games here. I've played all of these games. We're not going to be able to cover all of them today, obviously. But instead what we're going to do is I'm going to click on this wheel 30 times, and the 30 games that come out in the appropriate order are the games we're going to talk about in that order. So let's just go straight to it. I'm going to skip all of the Wheel of Names spinnings, apart from this first one to show you how it works. But I'm not going to have all the footage in because that's just pointless. But you have to trust me, it's random when I do this, okay? But yeah, let's get the first one, see what game comes out. So we're going to start with one of the games that I've actually most recently played on the PS1 for the games that are coming up, and I've done it. I've chosen randomly 30 games. As we know, Suikoden 2 is going to start things off, but yeah, 29 games other than that will be following, and I'm going to be putting them into the order that they were chosen. So okay, anyway, as always, we're going to plonk things into C tier, discuss the game, and then yeah, we're going to rank it. Just so you know, we've got a D and an F tier as well. But most interesting, this tier list that I've been basing off has got a top 3 option here, which is not normally something that we normally have. But I thought it would be quite cool to kind of rank the top 3 games here that we're going to be randomly, discussing in that respect. So yeah, let's just start with Suikoden 2. So, for those who don't know, I had my first Suikoden experience on the channel a couple of years ago now, I think it was, and it was tremendous, absolutely brilliant. I loved playing Suikoden 2. It's an exceptional game. I'm gutted in a certain way, and I said this when I was streaming the game, that I didn't play Suikoden 1 first, because I genuinely didn't know how much I was going to like Suikoden. I heard it was a very, very good JRPG, and I would likely enjoy it, but I enjoyed it way more than I ever anticipated enjoying it, to be honest with you. It was excellent, and it made me, when I was like, probably for the 1 or 2 streams where I was like, damn, I should have started from the first game. We haven't played the first one yet. We will play it on the channel hopefully soon. The remaster of Suikoden 1 and 2 is coming out, I believe, quite soon, so I might play it around that time. Suikoden 2, if you love Final Fantasy, if you love 2D RPGs, turn-based RPGs, you will love Suikoden. It is one of the best RPGs I've ever made. I absolutely love it. It's straight away on this list going into S tier. I would consider it A tier to S tier, but because of the games that we're covering today, I'm going to put it into S tier. We can always move about afterwards. It may even be top 3 depending on what games are going to come out. But we will. I think putting it in S tier is good for now. Next up, we've got Driver, the OG Driver. Now, the OG Driver is infamous, isn't it, for its intro / demo / tutorial section. But if you actually ever get past that, what's underneath is actually an exceptional game. I really enjoy Driver. For me, if it wasn't for Driver, Grand Theft Auto would not be the series it is today, because Grand Theft Auto, when Driver came out, was a very different beast. And Driver really did kind of spearhead that like gangster crime, escaping the police type of felony situation game in a 3D way before GTA took it and just went, a rocket shoved up its butt and went to the stars with that genre. Yeah, I've not played Driver in a long time. I do want to revisit it, actually. I want to see if it's aged well. Now, the one thing that you can't do in Driver 1 was you can't leave your car. That was always like a type of thing. I very, very briefly played the second game, and I know they corrected that somewhat in the game. However, the pixelated model looks atrocious. But I've not actually thoroughly played the second game. I've heard it's pretty good. I'm gonna put Driver here into B tier. It's a strong game. Really, really enjoy it. Definitely worth, well, certainly worth playing at the time. Now, has it aged? I don't know. I would love to find out at some point. I might play it on Retro Sundays. Some of these games that we are covering today, we may play on Retro Sundays in the future. Anyway, if not, some of them we've already covered, like Suikoden. So, okay. Next up, we've got Street Fighter EX2 Plus, which is a brilliant Street Fighter game. Arguably the best Street Fighter game in this era. Between Street Fighter 2 and 4, this is probably my favorite Street Fighter game. It's the best, and I think a lot of people kind of say that. I'm not like a massive Street Fighter guy, but having spoken to quite a few people who do love this series, they tend to say this is arguably the best on this era. So that's kind of nice to hear that, because it's my favorite. But I fell into this game. Like, my friend had it. I played Street Fighter 2 on the Mega Drive, and then, you know, life moved on. I actually didn't know that Street Fighter games were being made in the 3D era of the PS1 and stuff like that. And then my friend got Street Fighter EX2 Plus. It's like, oh, this is really cool. And obviously seeing the updated 3D graphics and the EX bar and stuff like that, and seeing like the white M Bison fight and stuff like, oh, just excellent game. It's quite interesting. I returned to this game in my Can I Beat 20 Games challenge. Was it beat 20 games, or was it beat 15 games in 20 hours or something like that? I think when I hit 2,000 followers, we did an insane challenge, which I believe is still on my YouTube channel, unless I've removed it. And this game kicked my ass. It's a lot harder than I remember it being when I was younger, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great Street Fighter game. I'm going to put it into B tier straight away again. It's an excellent game. Really enjoyed it. And we have got another fighting game coming up, and straight away it's quite funny, because even though I am a Tekken guy, I am a Tekken guy. If you were to ask me what my favourite fighting game is, it's Tekken. However, Tekken 1 ain't great. I genuinely think, and there's a hot take when I say this, Tekken 2 is not great either. Now, a lot of people will be like, what? Now, bear with me when I say this. Now, I believe if you played Tekken 2 when it came out in 97, 96, 97, I think it was 97, then fine. You know, there was no better Tekken game, obviously, at that point, right? And Tekken obviously did, you know, take 3D fighting games, even at this point with Tekken 1 and Tekken 2, to a level that was not really seen before. But you could also make an argument to say that Virtua Fighter 2 is the best fighting game that was in 3D at this point. You know, the 3D fighting genre was still increasing at this point in terms of its quality, and Tekken 3, obviously, it's probably my favourite fighting game of all time. But Tekken 1, not great. If you go back and play Tekken 1 now, it's not good, guys. It's not the best. And I'd say same for Tekken 2 to a point, you know. It's really not the best. Anyway, we're talking about Tekken 1. I have to be respectful. I'm going to put it into C tier. I would probably say, if I was being unbiased in terms of the actual quality, I probably would consider it to be in the D tier. But at the time, you've got to take it into retrospective. That when this game came out, it was still very good. Just there was so much more to come when it comes to 3D fighting games. That's all, you know. The next game on the list was Sled Storm. Now, I've got an interesting story to tell about this in terms of music. Now, around the late 90s and early noughties, I was starting to finally get into metal. And I played Sled Storm quite early on in my PS1 library. I don't know if I ever owned it, if I borrowed it. I might have even played the demo. But anyway, I did play Sled Storm. I had a great time with it. Good game, actually. Anyway, there was a song on there by a metal artist you might have heard of called Rob Zombie, and the song is called Dragula. It's only his most famous song. Anyway, I played Sled Storm, enjoyed hearing this "Do It Baby" song on this, you know, snowboarding game. Life moved on, and I started to get into metal for a couple of years and stuff like that then, and I didn't know much about Rob Zombie. my forays into Rob Zombie's discography was then being involved in wrestling. I was a massive wrestling fan, and Edge, the wrestler Edge, used to have "Never Gonna Stop" by Rob Zombie as his theme song. And I was like, oh, who's this Rob Zombie guy? And then I started to dig into Rob Zombie's discography, and I found Dragula. I was like, holy crap, I remember this game. That was this. I remember that was on that Sledstorm game that I used to play. Oh my god, mind blown type of thing. And it was just like, it was kind of crazy because I was hearing Dragula. I remember hearing Dragula again and going, I've heard this somewhere. I don't know where it's from. It bugged me for ages. And then I think I revisited Sledstorm. And I saw, I was like, oh my god, it's on that Sledstorm game. No, my god. Anyway, so just an interesting little story for me, that. Maybe for you too, I don't know. But Sledstorm as a game is solid. It's a solid snowboarding game. Really enjoy it. Love to revisit it. Probably will get copyright stricken for it, but whatever. It's fun. It's a good snowboarding game. In terms of the PS1, you know, there weren't that many good snow games in general when it comes to like snow racing, snowboarding, you know, all that stuff. Sledstorm was arguably my favourite. I think if you had a Nintendo 64, I think it was 1080 snowboarding was like the game to play on that. And I think if you were to argue on the PS1, Sledstorm would probably be up there. I believe 1080 snowboarding is possibly better. I don't know. And it's not really my genre. I love SSX. Like, SSX Tricky is my favourite snowboarding game of all time. Anyway, Sledstorm, I'm going to put it into C tier. I think it's solid. It's good. I don't think it's quite good enough for B tier. And then we've got WWF SmackDown 2 Know Your Role. Now, again, when it comes to SmackDown games, when it comes to wrestling games, this for me is incredible. I want to revisit this game because, again, SmackDown 1 was good, but SmackDown 2 was excellent. Absolutely brilliant. What they got right in SmackDown 1, they improved in SmackDown 2. The one thing that I didn't like from SmackDown 2, however, is that in SmackDown 1, you could name your signature. You can name your finishing move. And you can't do that in SmackDown 2. And I thought that sucked. Other than that one little thing, SmackDown 2 is trumps better than SmackDown 1. And arguably SmackDown 2, to some people, and may possibly included into that, is the best wrestling game ever made. I genuinely love SmackDown 2. I did also like SmackDown, what was it? Oh, was it the fourth one, the fifth one? SmackDown, I think it was SmackDown Shut Your Mouth or Here Comes the Pain. One of those two was also, like, on the PS2, one of my favourite SmackDown games. Excellent games. I'm gonna put this into A tier. I think a few years ago I probably could have considered putting it to S, but I don't know. Maybe the game's aged a bit. We'll find out. I might flip it around. We'll see. But SmackDown 2 is excellent. Great game. Speaking of more great games, Spyro 1 is excellent. We played Spyro 1 on the channel a few months ago. Again, still has aged very, very well. I love playing the PS1 Spyro games. I love the Reignited trilogy as well. I'd say they're arguably just as good. I mean, graphically they are stunning, the remasters. But yeah, I can't say that I would not. I proved it. I'm not against playing the OG Spyro games now. Yeah, we did. We had problems playing the Insane. That's not the Insane trilogy. That's Crash. The Reignited trilogy. We had some issues playing that on the channel because of cloud saving issues. My game just wouldn't save permanently. So we reverted to the old school emulating save states and stuff like that. And yeah. Anyway, Spyro 1's great. Not a lot of people think it's the best of the trilogy. I'm not saying it's my favorite of the trilogy, but I think it's probably my second favorite. I think it is. My hot take on the Spyro trilogy is I think the second one is the worst of the three. I do think the worst of the trilogy is the second game, but most people tend to think that was the best one. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I love all three. Want to get that clear? They're all great, but I think Spyro 1 is really good. I'm thinking B to A tier. I'm gonna go with B tier. Yeah, let's go with B tier here. I might move it up. We'll see. Yeah, there we go. Tekken 2. So we talked about Tekken 2 a little bit earlier. We said that hot take, Tekken 2 is overrated. Sorry. I do think it is overrated. But it's still good. It's still a very good game. It's better than Tekken 1. And in fact, I remember again when you go against Devil and when you find out you can go against Angel, that was really cool. That was really cool. The roster's better as well. The game is more smooth. It's more slick. The graphics are better. It's like everything Tekken 1 set out as the seeds for the game improved on in every single way, and that's my opinion. Then we're going into Tekken 3, but it just went way better in every single way. The graphics, the music, the movesets, the characters, their moveset, everything. Tekken 3 is arguably my favorite fighting game of all time. By the way, I'll say it now, Tekken 3 is not in this list. It didn't make the cut of the 30 random games, sorry to say. So we're not going to be covering that. If we did, it would be very high on the list, obviously. Tekken 2, I'm going to put it into B tier. And now putting that into B tier is now making me think that, because again, Tekken 2, Street Fighter, EX2 Plus, I think EX2 Plus is a better game than Tekken 2. This is now where I'm starting to think I should put Tekken into D tier, to be honest. But what this is making me do is I'm going to put Spyro now into A tier, just to kind of make that a bit more balanced. I may move Tekken 1 and Tekken 2 down, but we will see. Okay. We got Lego Racers, guys. I'm sure you guys have all played this game, right? I played Lego Racers. Can I just say, this game's fine. This game's absolutely fine. It's kind of funny, actually. I played this quite a bit. I enjoyed this. I really like kart racing games, and I didn't have a Nintendo 64, so the only thing I could play was Crash Team Racing, which is not on this list today, annoyingly. Or Lego Racers. There was also Speed Freaks. I never played Speed Freaks. It's always been the game I've wanted to play, and hopefully we'll get to it at some point. But I did play Lego Racers, and I enjoyed it. So it's a kart racer. You know, I'm not going to say it's like this exceptional, amazing kart racing game. It's a kart racer with Lego characters. You can customize your characters, though. You go against it's kind of like some Crash Team Racing in that respect. You go against rivals and stuff like that. And I think if you beat them, you can get their their skins and possibly their abilities. I can't remember. I don't think it was actually. I don't think that's true. That last bit. But you can customize your little Lego character, and you can make him look however you want. And I actually thought that was really cool. Now, there's a few power-ups in the game, like there would be in a kart racer. Now, what was quite funny about playing Lego Racers is that most of the power-ups aren't great, but it was one, and I think it was the green one off the top of my head, that was just fucking P. Because basically if you collect, I think it was if you collect 3 or 4 of the same colour, you power up that power-up, basically. So if you get 1 red, then it's whatever. If you get 2 reds, it's powerful. If you get 3 reds, you get 4 red, whatever it is. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. But if you get 1 red and then you get 1 green, shall we say, you replace the red with the green. So you can't have a red-green. You got to keep the same colours and powering that colour. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the green one, if you got the maximum green one, it was ridiculous. It would basically, if I'm not mistaken, it would transport you half a lap. I'm not kidding. Around half a lap, maybe it was a quarter of a lap, I can't remember. But a good chunk of the lap forward. You'd go to this portal, and you'd come out the other side of the portal, and then you'd be way ahead. It was so overpowered. Stupidly overpowered. And the funny thing is, I enjoyed playing Lego Racers more when I didn't know that information. If I didn't know how good that power-up was, I actually enjoyed the actual racing better, and I actually found it to be relatively not an easy racing game, to be honest with you. But once I found that trick out, I was done. It was too easy, but it was still fun. I'm going to put it into C tier. I don't think Lego Racers is a great racing game, but it's perfectly playable. Perfectly playable. Okay. Well, people say Silent Hill 2 is the granddaddy of psychological horror, but you could make a very strong argument that Silent Hill 1 is the granddaddy of psychological horror, and one of the best horror games ever made, certainly on the PS1. Silent Hill 1's great. We revisited this last year on the channel, and I had a blast playing it again. I've probably beaten Silent Hill 1 now a good dozen times now, and it's still fun, still great, still creepy as F. It's the story's really good. The acting's not great. Of course, the fighting is not amazing, but the atmosphere of Silent Hill 1, it was terrifying when it came out. It creeped me out a lot, you know. And there's some really disturbing parts of that game. It's a really, really good game, and I think it's aged very well. In fact, as well, I think the longer time goes on, the more I appreciate Silent Hill 1. I'm going to put this into A tier. I genuinely think it's an exceptional game. Okay, we've got Medieval now. Medieval is a game I've not played a lot of. It's a game I need to revisit. I know it's had a remake. I think it's a remaster recently, which I've heard is not bad. I do want to play it. I do need to replay this game. My memories of this game is, again, playing it more on the demo than it is the actual game. But it was fun. It was really good. It was a good, silly, quirky, slightly creepy game, and I had a good time with it. A lot of people have a lot of fond memories playing this game. I'm going to keep it to C tier. Again, I can't really talk a lot about it. I need to play more Medieval. I never played the sequel or anything like that either, but I did enjoy my time with it, and I want to revisit it. Some of these games that we are talking about today are games I've not played in like 20, 25 years now. Don't forget, this console's now 30 years old, right? So I kind of need to put Oddworld Abe's Odyssey in a similar category to Medieval in that respect, although I'm going to put it into B tier because I do believe it is a step better as a game in every single way, shape, or form. And in fact, my memory of playing Oddworld is stronger than Medieval. I haven't played this game in a long time, but I had a lot of fun playing it. It was quite hard. It was kind of hard to follow in terms of what to do next and stuff like that, but I remember it being one of the most charming games in the PS1. I love farting on it. I love trying to, you know, get certain of the other, I can't remember what it's called now, but the other characters to follow you and stuff like that was quite difficult. It was a really nice puzzle game, basically, in a nutshell. It's kind of what it is. It's kind of a weird puzzle game. You got to try and figure out what to do in what order by using communication skills and, you know, puzzle skills and being tactical and trying to not get shot at and stuff like that. It is a great game. Oddworld was fun. I need to revisit it because I had a great time playing it. I didn't think it got very far in it, but I did enjoy my time with it, that's for sure. Next up on the list is Spyro 3. So, just for context, Spyro 2 isn't on this list, but I did say that I think it's my least favourite of the three. But what one is my favourite of the three is Spyro 3. I really, really think this game is good. Now, I think there's some people that think Spyro 3 was better than Spyro 2. Some people think it's a slight step down. I think it's because of the other characters, which is a fair point. So, you know, the other characters that you can play as in Spyro 3, they're not quite as good or as fun to play as Spyro. But they are fun, some more than others. Like Sergeant Bird, can't say I enjoy playing as him, but I enjoy playing as Sheila the Kangaroo, and some of the other characters are fine as well. But yeah, of course, you can't beat playing Spyro, but I mean, another thing that makes Spyro 3 better than Spyro 2 in that respect is I love doing the skateboarding. That's a lot of fun. I think some of the missions are a lot of fun. But one thing I think Spyro 3 does better than Spyro 2, and I think I've said this on the channel when I've been playing the trilogy recently, is that my issue, I think, with Spyro 2 is its lack of flow. And Spyro 1 and 3 have got great flow. Like, you go from one world to another, to another, to another. Whereas in Spyro 3, there's only 3 worlds, if I'm not mistaken. And or whatever the third, or is it the fourth? But I think it's the third world. It's really short. There's like 2 or 3 levels in it, and that's it, you're done. And it's like, oh. Whereas the balance of Spyro 3 is great. You know, each world is beautiful, got great quirky levels. I love the mini games. I think the level design in Spyro 2 is probably arguably as good as Spyro 3, but I just think the game flows better in Spyro 3. I also love the story with the sorceress Bianca as well. I think it's a much better story than with Ripto. I don't vibe with Ripto as a character in Spyro 2 as much. I like the sorceress. I love the relationship Sheila has, especially with Hunter and stuff like that. I just think Spyro 3 is my favourite Spyro game. That's tough. Damn, that's tough. Right, okay, I'm going to do some rejigging now. So I'm going to put Spyro 3 into A tier. I'm going to move Spyro 2 back to B tier. I'm now going to move Tekken 2 to C tier. And yes, I'm sorry, I'm moving Tekken 1 to D tier. Sorry, Tekken fans. Okay. And then we've got Tombi, or Tomba, if you're from the US. Now, Tombi, I'm going to call it Tombi because I am from the UK. And in the PAL region, it's called Tombi. Tombi was one of those games that I always wanted to play. Over the years, I played the demo, like a lot of people in the UK, played the demo more than the actual game. And it was always one of those demos that I was like, good damn, this game is looking amazing. The demo was so big, you could do so much, and it was arguably like ahead of its time when it came to like fetch questing and stuff like that. And the fact that it was so non-linear, especially for a platformer. Like, you didn't get platformers that did that. You can do quests in whatever order you want. You know, there were certain things you kind of had to do in a certain order. But really, generally speaking, you can do all the quests in whatever way you want. You can, you know, having now played Tombi 1 and 2 for that matter, and by the way, my hot take is I think the first one is better than the second one. I haven't played both of them now. But the first game is very good. It's not quite as good as I hoped it would be. I did enjoy it though. I'm going to put it into B tier. I think it's a solid B game. I don't think it's like A or S tier. I know there's some people that will say it's one of the best platformers of all time, or even on the PS1. That's fine, I respect that. I don't agree. I think some of the Spyro games and Crash games are better. But I do think it was very good. And I do think the first one was better than the second one. So yeah, I would consider putting Tombi 2 in like C tier or B tier. Or maybe bump Tombi up to A tier. I don't know. But we're not talking about the second one's not on the list as far as I remember. But we'll find out. I can't remember. Anyway. This first Spider-Man game on the PS1. Now, I had a lot of fun playing this when it came out, and I don't really think I've played it since. I really want to revisit this game because I had a great time playing it. I remember being like just obsessed with all the Spider-Man skins you can get. There's so many different like Spider-Man suits you can get, and they all have different powers and stuff. I had a great time. I loved the soundtrack. I loved the humor. It was a fun platformer / action game. My memories of it are quite hazy, other than that. But I remember being a lot of fun. I don't think I can quite put it into B tier because I need to remember the game better. But I need to revisit it. It's that one and the second one for that matter. I never did play the second one on the PS1. I heard the second one is arguably just as good, but I never did play it. I only did play the first one. Yeah. Okay, and we've got Crash Bandicoot, one of the first PS1 platformers that were in 3D anyway. Naughty Dog's debut on the PS1. Crash 1. Now, Crash 1 was not as good as Crash 2 and 3. It was the hardest game of the trilogy as well. I enjoy it. In fact, I've enjoyed Crash 1 probably more now than I did back then. I always remember not playing a lot of Crash 1 because it was so hard. And it's fucking hard. It's really hard. But I am much better playing Crash now than I ever was back then. I can probably play Crash 1 quite comfortably now. Whereas I did struggle to beat Crash 1 as a kid. Crash 2 and 3 I could play quite comfortably, but the first one was tough. Yeah, the game's got better. I'm going to put Crash 1 to B tier. I do think it's a B tier game. I do think that the game's got much better. Yeah, the first one is fine. It's solid. It's a solid game that was definitely going to get improved. That's for sure. Okay, and then we got Resident Evil Survivor again. So we talk about Suikoden, me playing this in modern day for the first time. Another game I played for the first time in modern day was Resident Evil Survivor. We played that in one stream on this channel a few months ago. I don't know if that VOD is still around. It might be. I can't remember. But hey, check it out if you want. It was one of the first games I did retro achievements on as well, actually. That was interesting. So yeah, I didn't play Resident Evil Survivor as a kid or growing up on the PS1 era because I heard the game weren't great. I heard that Resident Evil Survivor is a meh FPS game. So I heard it's not a great Resident Evil game. I heard it's not a great FPS game. So, and I'm not massive on FPS games anyway, to be honest with you. So I thought, well, what's the point in playing it? It's not even canon, as far as I'm aware. I might not be sure now. That might be canon. Anyway, I never did play it for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, and I only finally played it in 2024. And I had a much better time with this game than I expected. It is fine. It's fine. It's a fun little game. The story's fine. What's really good about Resident Evil Survivor is, again, there's like so many different paths you can take, and depending on what path you take, it depends what ending you get. There's like a good little butterfly effect game in this game that I did not see or knew about, and no one really talked about it. So depending on what paths you take, it changes what items you get, what weapons you get, what enemies you go against. It's actually really clever, and the fighting is fine. The story's fine, as I said. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's a fun little game. I don't know if I could put it into B tier though. I'm going to keep it into C tier. I don't think it is good enough to put higher than that. But yeah, I had a good time. So then we got FIFA 2000. Now, I did love the FIFA games. I still do play them once in a blue moon. I tend to buy a FIFA game every 4 years. I bought FIFA 2024. And then before that I bought FIFA 20, and then I think before that I bought FIFA 16. So I'm probably not going to play another FIFA game until 2028, guys, just to let you know. But yeah, I do like playing a FIFA game once in a while. I mean, if you buy them every year, then there's very little change between each game, but they make subtle changes each year, I know that. So if you buy it every 4 years like me, then you might actually find them making slight changes that are worth looking into. Anyway, back in those days, I think the changes were better, more significant. And FIFA 2000, I didn't play FIFA 99, but I did play FIFA 98 and FIFA World Cup 98. And I do think there was a good jump between 98 and 2000. I loved playing 2000. I had a great time playing it. Loved playing it. I thought the soundtrack was really good. I thought John Motson. Oh my god. Motti, I was thinking. His name is Motti or John Motson. His commentary was brilliant. There's always one line that I love that he says in the game. He goes something like, "Oh, and it's gone in, and the keeper looks like he swallowed a wasp." I always love that line. I don't know why. I love FIFA 2000 again. I love that you can customize your own characters in it. Your own players in the game. That was the first game I remember doing that quite a lot in, actually. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, love FIFA 2000. I'm going to put it into B tier because, again, it's hard to rank football games, isn't it, really? I'm not going to say it's like the best game of all time, but I had a great time playing FIFA 2000. So, yeah, believe it or not, I know some people are like, what? You're putting a football game over Tekken 2? I am. Of course, if you were to ask anyone now what game is more memorable, people play a lot more nowadays, all that jazz, people could say Tekken 2 any day of the week. But in terms of what came out and what was a good, solid game, I think FIFA's a better game. Hot take. There you go. Take it as much as you want. Comment, tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. Again, games that I've played for the first time ever, and this is embarrassing to a certain point. I never did play Metal Gear Solid until 2024. And I had a good time with it. Now, a lot of people put this straight into top 3 best games of all time, S tier. This is the granddaddy of video gaming for a lot of people. And I feel like if it was my genre, I feel like if I played it when it came out, I feel like if the circumstances were different, I would agree. They're not. I'm sorry. There's a reason why I've not played many Metal Gear Solid games. I'm not really big on stealth games. I'm not really big on that genre, and that's just the way I am. I don't I just don't work that way. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it for what it is. The cinematics in Metal Gear Solid are still incredible for 2024. I had a great time admiring the cinematography, the attention to detail, some of the great acting. The story is obviously very, very good. It's a great game, obviously. Again, I'm not a stealthy boy, so I didn't enjoy playing it as much as I enjoyed watching and admiring, the finer parts of the game. But it means in terms of me, I wasn't great at the game. Where to rank it is really, really tough because I don't think it needs to be too high up for me. I'm going to put it into B tier, and again, I know there's going to be a lot of people pissed off with me that I'm comparing Metal Gear Solid to FIFA 2000. But I am. Get over it. That's just the way the cookie crumbles, and there's nothing you can do about it, so get over it. So, yeah. Alright, so next up we have got quite an obscure game. We've got Psychic Force 2. Now, again, I'm not expecting many people to have played this game. I borrowed this game. I rented it from a local store. So again, I used to live in North Wales, but I used to live in a really quite a secluded area, and there weren't many places to borrow games back in those days. We didn't have like Blockbuster where I lived or anything like that, but we did have a little local place where you can borrow games, and they did have a respectful collection, I would say, for a shop that small in that location, now that I think about it. And they had Psychic Force 2, and this was one of the first fighting games I'd ever played, would you believe? I mean, I played like Tekken 2 and 3 on the PS1. I'm talking about PS1, by the way. So I did play Psychic Force 2, but I gotta be honest, it wasn't great. Yeah, it's not a game I'd really recommend. Really, it's kind of interesting in terms of like it's a 3D fighting game, but you're kind of playing this box almost. It's kind of like Smash Bros, I suppose, but before Smash Bros was I think I'm not sure, but it's kind of like a square cube, not a square really. It's like a cube, and you can kind of attack each of them like 3D and stuff like that. But it's not the best. Probably gonna put it into D tier. I'm even debating put it into the F tier section here, but no, I'm gonna keep it to D. So it wasn't bad, it just wasn't great really. I don't think we can put any game into F tier, really. I don't think anyway. So, and then we got Gran Turismo 1. Again, we played Gran Turismo 1 on Retro Sundays a few months ago, and that was a lot of fun. I think again that video might be on the VOD on YouTube, so maybe worth checking that out if you want to see how I got on the OG Gran Turismo recently in 2024. And I must say, I love Grand Theft Auto. I do love Grand Theft Auto. We're talking about Gran Turismo. I do love Gran Turismo. I really haven't played many of the games in the series, would you believe? But I did love the first one. I've always liked playing Gran Turismo games if I ever get the chance to, but it's rare that I really have played them, I must say. But the first one I did, it's probably definitely by a long shot poured the most hours into. I used to love doing the international licenses and stuff like, not just the B and the A and the international A licenses and stuff like that, and like trying to upgrade and fine tune your cars and stuff like that. I'm not very good at Gran Turismo, I must say. Like doing the licensing is so hard to get like a gold in every single category and stuff like that. But playing arcade racing as well on Gran Turismo was so much fun. It's really simply one of the best games for its time ever made. Again, I remember looking at Gran Turismo when it came out and going, oh my god, graphics will never get better than this. And I must say, even now, I think the graphics look really fine. They look fine. This is a tough one here because I'm actually, can I put it into A tier? I kind of feel like I need to split some of these B tiers a bit, you know? I am going to put Gran Turismo into A tier, and I'm going to knock Smackdown into S tier here, and I want to move one of these up, and I'm thinking it's going to be Spyro into A tier, which is kind of crazy now that I think about it. Does that mean I should put Spyro 3 into S tier? I've done it now. Just to get a bit of balance, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's go with that then. Right, and then we've got Resident Evil, aka in this list, Resident Evil Director's Cut. Now, I don't have on the box art for Resident Evil the original RE1 on here. I'm going to talk about RE1, although we will talk about Director's Cut as well, because it's fine, you know. Director's Cut is a fine version of RE1. Would I play it over the original? Maybe. I wouldn't play it with the arranged music, but I would play the extra features and stuff like that. Other than that, and you get auto aim and stuff like that as well. But yeah, generally, let's talk about RE1. So RE1 is exceptional. I love RE1. I think hot take for me seems to be that I prefer it to the remake. I don't seem to think that many people would agree with that opinion. I just love playing the original trilogy. And probably more than the remakes in that respect. I mean, RE2 might be an exception to that. But I think RE1 is better than RE1 Remake. I think RE3 is better than RE3 Remake. But yeah, RE1 is great. Again, when it comes to groundbreaking games, I mean, it's the granddaddy of survival horror, right? You know, and it's exceptional. It's great. I love the bad voice acting. I don't care. I think the game plays really fine. I still love playing this game. I love playing it on the buy and door randomizers and stuff like that still. And even just a casual playthrough of RE1. I'm really proud to say I've no damage ran this game as well. I've been able to beat Jill's campaign without taking a single hit, which is again a proud one of my crown achievements of the year. This year I managed to do that. I think that runs on the channel, pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm putting it into, looking at the rest of the games, I'm putting it onto S tier. I mean, again, I'd probably say more A to S tier, but looking at the other games around it, I think it should be on the S tier. It's one of my favourite games. RE2, by the way, RE2 and RE3 are not on this list today. I'm annoyed that I didn't get the cut, but there's nothing I can make about it. But yeah, RE1's great. Then we got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Now again, I never played a single Tony Hawk's game until last year. Last year was the first time we did Retro Sundays as a series, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the first game we did on Retro Sundays. Now I don't know if that VOD is still around on my YouTube channel. If it is, then great. But yeah, we had an alright time playing Pro Skater. I didn't. It's not my genre. A bit like Metal Gear Solid. It's not really my thing. I'm not very good at it, but I appreciate it for what it was. You know, there's so many people that love this game, and it plays great for them. I can't play it. The soundtrack's fantastic. I must admit, I love the soundtrack. I mean, and so many people that go, man, that was the door unlocking into my music life. You know, people kind of talk about moments in their lives that really are significant in terms of loving the music that they love, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is one of those moments for a lot of people, and I totally respect that. You know, it's a great soundtrack. I'm going to put it into the same category as Metal Gear Solid, because you believe that these are kind of similar in terms of the fact that a lot of people, I know a lot of people are going, you can't compare Tony Hawk's to Metal Gear Solid. You can, believe it or not. These two games up here are two of the most critically acclaimed PS1 titles of all time. If you ask anyone what their favourite skateboarding game is, they'll say Tony Hawk's 1 or 2, probably. If you ask people what their favourite games of all time are, you tend to hear Metal Gear Solid, you know? And both these games are not my genre. And both these games, I appreciate them for what they are, but they're just not quite for me. So I feel like they kind of fall quite nicely together by putting them into B tier, because I appreciate what they offer, it's just not for me. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is excellent. We talk about games that I think would be so beneficial for remake. This is up there. This game oozes coolness. It oozes gothic culture. It's so badass. It's so just so cool, so stylish. I'd love for like it to have like a lick of Bloodborne in Soul Reaver remake, you know. Oh my god, it's just, for the PS1 it was stunning. It was gothic and dark and brooding and just aesthetically one of the best looking PS1 titles ever made. Stylistically aside, the game itself has a great storyline. The battle system is fine. The game's quite difficult. I didn't ever really feel like I got that far in this game. Again, it's one of those games that I played as a demo, then I played as the actual game, but I can't remember how far I got in it. I genuinely can't remember. Not far enough. It's another title I really want to get my hands back on Retro Sundays and play it on the channel at some point, because honestly, it was a great time. Do we put it to B tier or C tier here? I'm going to go with B tier for now, and then we can maybe mix some bits and pieces up a bit. You know, I'm starting to think we might need to drop some things into D tier a bit, but we'll keep going. We haven't got too many titles left, to be honest with you, anyway. Okay, we've got Hogs of War. Anyone play Hogs of War? What a great game this was. And there was commentary on it by the late great Rick Mail. And it was just so cool. A proper British game, innit? British hogs going to war in the World War II style game. It was just funny, silly, A lot of fun. It was basically 3D Worms. For those who played Worms games, well, if you guys like the style of Worms games and you want a 3D style Worms game that's not Worms, play Hogs of War. Hogs of War is brilliant. I don't think I do prefer it to 2D Worms. I do think the Worms games were. I do think the 2D Worms games were better than Hogs of War, but 3D's Worms games weren't great. I've never really felt that they were very good, but therefore I think Hogs of War is a better version. However, it's still not. It's still inferior in that respect. I'm gonna put it into C tier, and again I think that's a bit harsh. I kind of feel like it's a CB here, but there's just too much stacked into B tier. I don't think I can push it above any of the other games in that list there. So we're gonna put it there. Now, I'm sure there were some people that were questioning their heads if they did see this early on in the list. Brunswick's Circuit Pro Bowling 2. You're like, what the fuck, Johnny Beard? A bowling game? Now, can I just say, this game has sentimental value to me, okay? So, bear with me here. So, this game, I had a PlayStation 1. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. When I got the PlayStation 2 and I'd moved on, obviously PlayStation 1s were quite cheap. My granddad got a PS1 as a family console in his house with my grandmum. My grandparents obviously they noticed that these old games were being popular with the grandkids basically, and we're like, oh, we'll get a PlayStation. We'll get a PlayStation in the house when the grandkids visit, type of thing. And I used to sometimes bring my PS2 with me to my grandparents' house, but sometimes I wouldn't or couldn't. So my granddad had his PS1, and they didn't have many games. And they obviously picked up what they wanted or felt would be interesting. And they had this. They had Brunswick Circuit Pro Bowling 2. And can I just say, I was kind of not like. I wouldn't say like I was into bowling as such, but I had a bit of a soft spot for bowling, and I still kind of do. Because if you don't recall, on the PS2 there was a certain game called Tekken Tag Tournament that had Tekken Bowl mode, and that was so much fun. Again, we're not talking about PS2 games here and Tekken Tag Tournament, but we're talking about bowling here. And I really started to have an appreciation for bowling. Again, when you go to play Wii Sports on the Wii, and we had Wii Bowling. That was fun. I've always had a soft spot for bowling, and this game was a bowling game. It was a genuine bowling game, and it was fun. It was fine. You could customize your own character. I mean, it was so funny. Again, THQ made this, okay? And for context, if you don't know, THQ made SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, it was probably on the same engine. Because you could customize your characters. Now, let's get something clear. You couldn't put them in tiny trunks and give them tattoos. In fact, they wore bowling attire. Like, they wore like a really terrible selection of polo shirts and different formal trousers. Okay, I'm not saying that you could make them wear skimpy outfits or anything like that. In fact, the customize your bowler, whatever you want to call it, is actually very bare bones and crap. But again, the fact that you could do that was kind of quirky. I'm not going to pretend this game is anything special. This game is not. But it's for a bowling game, it is absolutely fine. I'm actually going to keep it in C tier. And I think people are going to be like, what? You're going to put bowling game over Tekken? Yes, I am. Get over it. I might move it to D tier. We'll see. Okay, we've only got 4 titles left to talk about, and one of those titles is Dino Crisis. So again, I never played the Dino Crisis games growing up. I don't know why. I always had an interest in playing them. I heard that it's Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and it is. That's exactly what Dino Crisis is, and it ain't bad at all. It's fun. I do think it is inferior to the Resident Evil games on the console. That's my opinion. A lot of people think it's equally as good. I don't agree. I don't think it's as good as Resident Evil. But I did enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I think it is good. And I would play it again for sure. And I want to play the second one, so I haven't played the second one yet. So with that being said, I think that I can't put it any lower than B tier. I don't think it deserves to be lower anyway. I do think it is probably a fair place to put it. I'm now at a point where I'm thinking I might need to knock some of these down. So I'm going to probably move down Oddworld here. Alright, so the last 3 games now. We've got Worms Armageddon. We talk about Worms and we talk about Hogs of War. And we talk about the fact that 2D Worms games are my favourite when it comes to these style of games. And when it comes to these style of games, and we talk about Worms and the Worms series and anything to do with it, Worms Armageddon for me is the best Worms game ever made. And in my opinion, when it comes to this genre and this style, it's never ever been beat. Worms Armageddon, I love playing this game. Worms 2 or Worms Armageddon were kind of similar. I think Worms 2 was Worms Armageddon but on PC. They were practically the same game. I never did have that. I did have Worms Armageddon on the PS1, and Worms Armageddon on the PS1 is one of my all-time favourite games. It's going straight to S tier. Now, some people might be like, "Wow, that's crazy!" Like, genuinely, I had so much fun playing Worms Armageddon with friends in my teens. Like, not even just as a kid. For years and years I played this. I miss those days. I genuinely miss playing Worms Armageddon. In fact, I have streamed and played Worms Armageddon a little bit with our online community, The Nightbreed, a couple of times. I wanted it to be more. It's hard to find people wanting to play Worms Armageddon. It sucks. I really like. If anyone wants to play Worms Armageddon, please get in touch. It's so much fun. In fact, the game just had a remaster, I believe, to celebrate 25 years. I think the game came out like a few weeks ago. So yeah, definitely, exceptional. Love that game so much. Penultimate game now. We've got Crash Bandicoot 3, and again, this is going straight into S tier. You might have noticed, guys, we've not put a top 3 yet. We're going to do that at the end. Straight into S tier. Crash Bandicoot 3 is... I used to say Crash Bandicoot 3 was my favourite Crash Bandicoot game. I do have now equal appreciation for Crash 2. They're both S tier. Like, Crash 2 is not on the list, by the way, unfortunately. But Crash 3 is exceptional. Absolutely. This was the first Crash game I owned. I played Crash 1 before Crash 3, but I owned Crash 3. In fact, so the games that I got when I got my PS1 were Crash Bandicoot 3, Tekken 3, and Resident Evil 2. 3 of the best games of all time, you know. I plowed so many hours into this game. It's just so good. And again, I love like the time trial relic mode. Some of the levels are just so good. I love the abilities you get in the game. It's just a complete package for me. Crash Bandicoot. It's just exceptional. I would make an argument to say that the levels in Crash 2 are better than the levels in Crash 3, and I think that's why I would nowadays kind of lean more towards Crash 2. But I do feel like as a package, Crash 3 is the best Crash game ever made. So it's straight into S tier now. And last but not least, and I genuinely did not mess this around. I genuinely, the 30th pick of my randomizer was Final Fantasy 9. Now, at one point, I was like, there's no Final Fantasy games on my list, man. This is ridiculous. Like, I've got to talk about a Final Fantasy game. Why is there no Final Fantasy games on my list? I was getting really itchy. I was like really annoyed. It's like, why is no Final Fantasy games getting picked on this randomizer? And then the 30th pick was Final Fantasy 9. Now, if you know me, you know that this game means the world to me. It is possibly my favorite game of all time. If people go, hey JB, what's your favorite game of all time? I always say Final Fantasy. It's as simple as that. The favorite Final Fantasy game, the favorite game, favorite characters, favorite music. It's not perfect, but it's close to perfection as it comes when it comes to like as a whole package. The story's amazing, the characters are excellent. The combination of tragedy and comedy, it's fucking funny. Such a funny game. It's just, oh god. And this game is turning 25 years old next year. There's a very strong possibility, and I'm not promising, but there's a strong possibility, guys, we'll be playing this in its entirety next year to celebrate it turning 25. It's one of my all-time favorite games, if not the best game ever made, in my opinion. I love this game. I'm kind of gutted we didn't get to talk about the other Final Fantasy games today, but you know my opinion on Final Fantasy. Generally, 7 and 8 probably would have been there with S tier. That's for sure. In terms of my favourite of the 3, it is 9, then 7, then 8, but I love all 3. Okay, that's pretty much the end now. I do want to kind of wrap this up by doing a bit of changing here. So what would I put into S tier here? I'm going to put Crash Bandicoot 3 into S tier. And then, this gets really tough. I'm going to... kind of crazy here, but I'm going to actually put Worms Armageddon into top 3. Just right now, like, these could easily change. These could easily change. But at the moment, top 3, I'm putting Worms Armageddon in there. Now, that might be a big surprise, but that's what we're going to go with, guys. I kind of feel like, no, you know what, I'm going to keep that as is. I don't think that that needs to be changed. I don't think that needs to change. I think I'm happy with that list there. So there we go, 30 relatively random PS1 titles, what I think are the best and not so good. What are your favourite games on the PS1? What are your favourite games on this list? What are my hot takes that you guys do not agree with? And I'm sure it's Metal Gear Solid and maybe Pro Skater. But what else have I got wrong? What have I placed too high? What have I placed too low? Let me know. Did you enjoy this? And most importantly, happy 30th birthday to the Sony PlayStation. This console means the world to me, and I know it means the world to so many people, and it's just, yeah, amazing. Anyway, I'll be back next Thursday with another Tier List Thursday. Until then, much love, take care. Bye-bye.